Hello everybody, Mr. the Vest Man here, bringing you Settlement Survival. And Settlement Survival is the trickiest of tricky. And watch the video, see what I do, but I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff. So I'm not going to directly be talking about what goes on in this video. The number one thing to do here is you need multiple people for this one. I'm going to suggest 3 your minimum, 4 is nice. The one thing to keep in mind is the more people you have, the more health the enemies get. So some people like to only roll with 3. That way the enemies don't have that extra health boost. Now obviously if you only have 3, you have a little less coverage on such a big map. And there's other hindrances to only having 3, but then there's the benefit of the enemies have less health. So you kind of have to weigh that before you start and plan accordingly. Next up, chassis. What you should bring. I don't think having an assault chassis is going to be very useful in this instance. There's not going to be too many instances where there's breakers. Okay, there will be in the early waves. There's going to be some breakers, but later on, breakers are very, very rare. I don't think you're going to want explosive weapons, so you're not going to probably need artillery. You're probably not going to even need to bother with grenade launchers. So I would not say bring an assault mech. You'll see I'm in an engineer mech, and the other 2 people, which are actually both XBLA fan people, Todd and Ryan, they are in standard chassis using snipers. Todd's using double Elberts, which are amazing on this map, and Ryan is using 1 Elbert and 2 shotties, and they're the explosive shoddy because we wanted someone to have some form of explosives, and the explosive shotties, in my opinion, are better than artillery because you could shoot them faster. They're not going to do as much damage, but the only reason you really want them is for the explosive effect, and they work wonders in that regard. So I suggest if you have 3 people, 1 person has to be an engineer, obviously, because you're going to need sniper turrets. But you don't necessarily need more than 1 person on engineer. If you have 4 people, a good mix would be 2 and 2, 2 engineers, 2 standards. But with 3 people, I suggest 1 engineer, 2 standards. Upgrade costs are going to be a little higher because of this, but having that extra firepower from more Elberts is very, very essential. And speaking of the Elberts, weapon-wise, I can't suggest anything else but Elberts for the most part. Because the Elberts, for one, they have piercing. So piercing is amazing because of the Jacobs. And one of the things, on Swamp, you'll see it as well. These maps are very Jacobs heavy later on, like extraordinarily so with the Jacobs. So you really are going to need piercing. The Albert is amazing for that, and because this map is so big and it's so hard to get from one side to the other, having the ability to snipe across it is very, very useful. I would pretty well suggest everyone has at least 1 Albert, if not use 2. The only other weapons I would kind of suggest are the hole puncher. No, is it hole puncher shotgun? It's the shotgun that has explosive damage. You might want to bring just 1 or 2 of those, like we did, or you might want to bring perforator machine guns on someone just to help, because the perforators can help you deal with aerial units, because there are going to be quite a few aerial units as well. But I wouldn't suggest more than 1 person has machine guns. Everyone else should be rocking heavy-duty snipers, Elberts preferably. And for turrets, you're going to want quite a few, actually. For the engineer, you have to have snipers. A big help is the piercing shot sniper, but if not, use the ironclad sniper. You're going to want dampening generators. You're going to want machine guns. Camo shotguns if you have them. You're going to want machine guns are really important, though. I can't stress the machine guns enough, because orange is going to be hit by a bunch of aerials. So, if you're wondering, yes, we've cut now to a decent amount of time into the game. And you could just take a look at my layout. So, the way the map is designed, there's, by blue, there are these 2 kind of like peninsulas that stick out into the swamp. I loaded those up with snipers in the early game. And that paid off huge dividends, because what happens is the Volt Dropper, the same as I explained on my settlement campaign mission, the Volt Dropper spawns out there, he'll do a figure 8, then he'll loop around. Well, if you put the snipers out there on those little peninsulas, on those outcroppings, whatever you want to call them, they will have ample opportunity to shoot the sniper. When the first Volt Dropper spawned, I believe it was on wave 6, I had 2 snipers out there. One was upgraded already to level 2, the other one was still level 1. And just with those snipers and us shooting at the Volt Dropper, we killed it before it even finished its figure 8. So that is super useful because on this map, the Volt Dropper is your biggest enemy. Same as he is in campaign mode. So you're really going to want to load up on snipers. Once you have about 4 to 5 snipers on the field, kind of just spread out so they have wide area coverage, then you're going to want to start focusing on getting some machine guns down, and you have to put down damping generators in front of those machine guns. There's not like a kind of maybe can put down dampening, like you have to. This level, aside from the Volt Droppers being huge dicks, there's going to be a lot of knobs. A lot of knobs. After wave 20 or so, there's just stupid amounts of knobs that are going to start spawning. And if you do not have those dampening generators, you're just going to constantly lose your machine gun turrets. Also, as you can see here on Green's spawn point over here, you're going to have a lot of burst transmitters as well. So it helps to have the piercing shot so you can hit multiples. Also, what you can do, it's really risky. I tried it, but it ended up not paying off. You can put snipers. If you have the piercing shot snipers, and if you line them up so they're basically in a straight line with this spawn, what they'll do is they'll shoot at the stupid, like, you know, the enemies with Jacobs on them, but because it pierces, there's a high chance that it's going to still clip the Jacobs. So what you basically do is you just set them up right down here where I am currently and just point them up towards that spawn. It's risky, you might lose them, but it could pay off for you too, so it's a risk you have to think about. Otherwise, just load up snipers all over the place. Remember, the snipers don't have an infinite range. This map is so big, there's actually going to be spots where they can't shoot, so you can't just put them all in one spot. You have to spread them out. I like to try to focus them mostly around the middle of the map because that's where your bosses spawn. But you do want to have a couple closer to Orange's side, and you're going to want to have a couple closer to Green's side. You're not going to want mine layers. There's very, very little use for mine layers on this map, mostly because this map is so big, and there's going to be such a problem with Jacobs later on that the mine layers really don't pay off. The only time, the only exception to this would be if you have a 4th person and he's also an engineer, then you can bring a mine layer. But I'm not gonna say that you absolutely have to bring the mine layer with only 3. I think for 3, the sniper turret trumps the mine layer by far. Also, you can see I'm not using. I think this is like, what is this? The Honeychurch or something? I'm using the engineer mech that has only 1 heavy emplacement, but it has the ability to have a sniper equipped on it. What else? What else? What else? When you have 3 people like this, obviously the best thing you can do is spread out a little bit. Have 1 person at orange, 1 person at green, 1 person at blue. You can see though, I kind of keep going back over to green and blue because that's just the area I know best. Something else to keep in mind too is, even though like what you see us doing, stuff can be slightly different. So the way this game is structured on survival mode, each wave has 3 different outcomes on how it will play out. So I can't specifically tell you where stuff is going to spawn and when because it might change. There is a flying enemy. Yep, had to make sure we put that in. It's a spawn glitch, I guess, when they come out. Just, whew, tries to take off. But this is one of your harder ways because you're going to have all the bosses. What you're going to want to focus on is the Volt Dropper and the Amplifier. We went for the Amplifier first because he had the Jacobs, so I had to get those Jacobs off. I didn't want to lose all of my stuff over at green. You'll also, after the Amplifier is dead, or if you feel he's about to die, focus on the Volt Dropper because that Volt Dropper is going to be super, super deadly. And the annoying part about this map is when the Volt Dropper does a pass, not only does he hit all 3 targets, like he'll hit one, then the other, but he also does more damage than an arty. So this is one of those times where, like, if a Volt Dropper spawns and an arty spawns, go for the Volt Dropper first. He will out-damage the arty every time. So let the arty shoot the damn thing. It doesn't matter. That Voltropper is priority, and I cannot stress that enough. Like, if a Voltropper spawns, everyone should drop what they're doing and shoot that Voltropper, because literally what's going to kill you on this map is the Voltropper. It doesn't matter what else spawns, that Voltropper is going to end up being the death of you. And you'll see, well, I think I cut most of it out, but our health just plummets on, I think it was wave like 43 or 42, because there were 2 Volt Droppers, and we were just having the damnedest time trying to kill them. And you just really have to focus fire those Volt Droppers. You have to get them dead. Like, they have to be. I cannot stress that enough. That's why I'm saying it so many times. Like, the Volt Dropper is the biggest issue on this level. Normally, like, when you do the Swamp one, the Volt Dropper is not so big of an issue, because Swamp is so small compared to this that no matter where you put a sniper turret, it basically can shoot anywhere on the map. This map is so big that if you put a sniper turret in the middle, or say you put a sniper turret on the left, it can only shoot to about the middle of the map. If you put one on the right, same thing. So this Volt Dropper, like right now, he's out of range of everything. He's probably in range of a couple now. He'll fly up past some, so that's the problem. Even with, I think by the end of the game, I had around 10 or 12 sniper turrets up, and they still weren't enough, because at no point could all 10 of my sniper turrets focus fire that Volt Dropper. He would fly around like a prick and just completely bypass them. But you could see that he did one pass and we were barely scraping by. The one thing to note about survival that is important loot drop wise is that after wave 35, the rest of the drops are cosmetic. So for Swamp, the achievement is at 20. For Settlement, the achievement's at 30. And if you get to those, you'll get those waves, you get the achievement. At 35, you'll get a loot drop on both Swamp and Settlement. That will be the final weaponized loot drop. It might be a turret, it might be a gun. I can't remember specifically what it is. You can check that out in our loot guide. But that will be the last gun drop. Sorry about that. But anyways, that's the last gun drop at 35. So if you at least make it to 35, you know you're going to get the last of the weapons, and you don't really have to worry too much. There are obviously leaderboard scores all the way to 100, and I've thought long and hard on how they probably got there, and there's a couple things that have really stuck out. Like, one, you really have to focus fire the Volt Dropper. You have to come in with a solid plan of what you're going to do, what you're going to drop down. The other thing is, we haven't tried it, but I've kind of thought about the idea, if everyone used engineer mechs, you could build a lot more turrets. Because when you're on an engineer mech, stuff is really cheap, like significantly cheaper than normal. So that might help you out. We haven't tried it, so I can't say for certain. That'd be something you guys would have to try. You would save tons and tons of money. You could build probably almost double the amount of turrets we currently have. The only thing is, you're going to lose pretty well 50% of your firepower, because everyone can only use one sniper rifle now. So I don't know. I haven't tried that myself. It's an idea I was kind of tossing around. It might work, or maybe if you just had 2 or 3 people on engineers and you had that one guy still using an assault chassis, or a standard chassis rather. I'm not sure, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this helped, and we will see you all next time when I do Swamp, and then that will be all for Iron Brigade.
Now will you just get out of my way and let me